Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss what is a component and how to create a component. So before starting how to create a component, you must be aware what is a component. So in Angular world, component plays a very important role. So what is a component? In easy term, I can say that component is nothing but a controller which controls the flow of data into your view. What is your view? View is nothing but a HTML page. So what data goes inside your view is getting controlled from your component or your controller. So you can, in easy terms, you can say that component is nothing but a controller. Why it is called a controller? Because it controls the flow of data that is going into your view. So this is the first interview question which you might get. What is a component? So in that, what you need to say is that component is nothing but a controller which controls the flow of data into your view. So the second question or second thing, most important thing about is how you create a component class. So component is nothing but a normal class with a decorator called at the rate component. So as soon as a normal class gets this decorator, it becomes a component class. So whenever you open any of the file and inside your Angular project, and if you see this decorator at the top of the class, then you can clearly understand that it's a component class. Now this component decorator which I'm talking about takes three parameters. So what all things it takes? First it takes is the template or template URL. So which template it is going to access as a controller? Say that component whatever it is like a controller which controls the flow of data into a view. So in which view is it going to control the flow of data? So that is nothing but the template. So you can express that template here itself, or you can give a template URL, a path to your HTML, or in template, you can write your HTML there itself. Now, the second thing is, as you all know, that HTML is incomplete without CSS, because CSS does what? CSS is mostly used for styling your HTML. So what it provides? It provides you style. What style class you want to apply, or and the third thing is your selector. So what is a selector? Selector is nothing but a container which contains your template, your style, and your logic that resides or that controls the what all data needs to go to your template. So these three things goes as parameters inside your at the rate component decorator. So next interview question can come to you that how what is a component and how you create a component. So what is a component? I explained you. How you create a component? You create a normal class with this decorator, then that class becomes a component class. And one more thing is that whenever a component class is getting created, it gets say that I have created a header component. Then it gets header component.ts. Why we are using this here? Because from the file structure itself, we come to know that this header file is a component file or it's a controller file. So now this was just a basic from outside, just I thought to make you understand what is a component and how to create a component. Now in previous video, if you go to my previous video and check, there I have given all the steps how to create a Angular 9 project. So I'll just put the link at the top, and from there you can go and create a new Angular 9 project. Once your project is ready, you can come here. Demo app is the name of my project, and these are the files which is there. So when I open my source folder, I get app, and inside my app, there are few files which are already there. So now what I'll do, this is my terminal view in my VS Code editor, which I'm using here. So what I'll do, I'll just add one more command prompt, and inside that what I'll do, I'll just create a new component, because in this module we are going to control, or we are going to create a component class. So ng is nothing but Angular generate component and component name. So here, for example, I'm just going to say demo or demo first. This is the name of my controller or component which I created now. So now what it is telling, it's telling that this ng command only works inside your Angular project. So I am inside right now in my Angular project. What I'll go to cd demo app and do the same thing. So what this command will do, this is the Angular CLI command which is going to generate your component file. So now if you see, you go ahead inside your app, you can see a new thing getting created. So what all things are there inside my component file? There's a HTML file, there is a CSS file, there is a TS file, and a spec file is nothing but for your unit test cases. So if I open my HTML, this is by default generated. If I go to my component class, so now as I discussed before, see what I did. It will have @component, it will have template, it will have style, it will have a selector. So if I go here, you can see that we have imported component from Angular core, where we are having a @component decorator. So what all things it takes? It takes your selector, your template URL, because here you can write HTML also, but that's not a desired thing from Angular. So always you provide the path of your HTML file. So by default, it is already pre-populated, and style URLs are also there. And this is the class which gets created, and inside this class we will have the logic whatever we want to have. So as I explained you, this template URL is nothing but your demo first component.html. This is your HTML file. So anything which you want to write for this component, any HTML code you can write here. So now for now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to write a hard-coded thing, and I'll write this is my first component. Okay, so I'm just going to show this on my running instance. So this is my HTML. I'm not using any CSS as of now. I'm not writing any level logic now. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go to node, and you need to write command. If you can see it now, okay, you can write it here. Ng generate was for generating. Now what you are going to do, you need to do ng serve -o, and as soon as you hit enter, what will happen? This will build the application and open the server for you, which will be running on the port 4200. So now what it's internally is trying to do, it's trying to build the whole application, and it's just going to provide you a development environment for checking what all things you are doing in your project. So now building process is on. As soon as the build project is done, we get a running instance. So, oh my God, what we got? We got ABC written here, but we have written something else. So if we go to our demo component.html, this is my first component I have written. So from where this ABC is coming from? This is coming from the root folder which was there. So when you create a project, there will be whole lot of thing written in your app component.html. So what I did, I had removed those all default things which were already there in my HTML, and I have written a simple h1 tag here. So what it means is that when the page or when the application runs, it's only going to show you the root component.html file. What is the reason behind this? So this might be the third question. In few interviews, they ask, why are you able to see app component.html contents only? Why are you able to see only app component.html contents only when you run an application? So the reason is that any application, when they get bootstrapped, the HTML which runs is index.html file. So when you open the index.html page, this is the HTML page which gets rendered in your browser. So what it is having? It is having something called app root thing. So what exactly is this app root? So if I go to my app component.ts file, and I can say a selector which is nothing but a app root written here. So while I was discussing these things, I told selector is nothing but a container which contains your template, your style, and your logic, which is nothing but the class which you are having. So now what it is taking? It's taking your app root, which shows this HTML. If any styling is there, it will show it. And if any logic is there, it's going to show it. So here something is written as title demo app. So if I go to our running instance, you can say here it's written demo app. It's the title which we have provided. And ABC is nothing but what's written in my HTML file. So now what I do, I go here and see what is written. So now I want my first component which I created also to be shown in this page. So how this app component was visible? App component was visible because it was having your selector written inside your index.html file. So similarly, what we are going to do, we are going to open our demo first component. We are just going to copy this selector, and what we are going to do, we are just going to go to our HTML file and write this selector. So it's nothing but it takes this HTML kind of tag, and inside which you need to write your selector. And now the selector will be nothing but your container, which will be containing your HTML file, CSS file, and any logic which you are going to write. So now if as soon as I save, this compilation happens. So if I go to my browser, I can see this is my first component is coming. So this was our first component which we created. And what we did, we just added that component into our app component.html, and we are able to see the content which is there. So now till now what we saw was your static content, meaning your things which you have written only inside your HTML page. Now what we need to do, we are going to check something about the dynamic contents. Dynamic contents means it's not going to directly be hard coded inside your HTML. It's going to come from your controller or component side. So what I do, I just go to my HTML file. This is H1. Now I want to write something here, name. And I don't want to hard code my name here. So what I'll do, inside my class, which is for writing any logic, for now, I'm just going to write name is equal to test, or everyone writes hello world. Whoa. So what I have written a name. I have given this name as hello world, and I want this name to come inside my HTML. So now I'll just first close everything. I'll only open this HTML file and your TS file. So name I want to display here. So for displaying any content or you're binding your component file to your HTML file, there is this doubly bracket. In Angular world, this doubly bracket is called interpolation. Interpolation is for binding your content which is there inside your component class to your HTML file. So now what I need to bind? I just need to bind the name field inside my name. And I'm done. So if I now go to my browser, it's refreshing and I get the name as hello world. So now tomorrow if say that if someone wants to call it hello world 1, so he does not need to go to your HTML page and change it. He can directly go and change from the logic itself. So now what I'll do, I'll try to add some more. Name is working is a variable which I created and I'll assign it a value as true. It was a string, it's my Boolean value. Now if I go and write age and I'm going to assign a number to it. So I'll say 12. Okay, so here you saw 3 things. One is string, Boolean and number. Now how I'm going to bind it to HTML? If you thought interpolation is the way, that's correct. Now what I'll do, I'll just take this name and so that we can identify what this field is. I'll take age, I'll write here age and do interpolation and bind all the fields here. So now what I'll do, I'll save it and go to my running instance. My name is hello world, is working true and age is 12. What we did, we binded the value which was there in my TS file to my HTML file. So this is the very basic example which I showed you. You can have any kind of component, or you can say that you can have based upon your requirement, you can divide a complex requirements into various components, and those components you can just segregate your functionalities. Each component should only be responsible for one functionality. Why? Because if it's only taking care of one functionality, then handling the unit test cases, the functionality, the HTML and the CSS will become very easy. So now in this example, we show that we have binded it with the HTML, what was there in my TS file. So till now we have not seen what exactly this CSS file is doing. What we have written. So I just want it to H1 to be right background. Let's say red. So what I'll do, I'm just going to provide H1, which is there inside my HTML file, to be converted to red. So now if I go here, I get a red tape. Similarly, these things what we have done, we have done for our component. So the similar thing we can do here as well. In our HTML file, there's a TS file, and I want to create name field, and I can write this is my root page, and I'll just try to print it inside my HTML file. So exactly where you want that to come. If you want some things, this is my header part. This is the internal content which is there, and you can have a footer thing if you want it to come here somewhere. Then you can show this here, and you can save it. And let us just this is my root page. So now if you want, you can divide this into, you can cut it here. you can create a whole div and you can arrange the CSS as well. I want these things to come after my name field. So my name is this is my first component. My name comes here, my header comes here, and this is the content which comes down. So you can, as this is a container, wherever you want to render it, you can render it. If you want it at the top, it can be your header component. So if you think it to be a header component, this will be the first thing which is going to come at the top. This is your header, this is your component. These things are coming from your parent and these are coming from your child component or the component which you created. So this is a very simple example which we took here. So in next tutorial, I'm just going to create more components and tell you the best way to handle. So right now, if we are having 10 components, then we can't go and write everything like this. So in next tutorial, what I'm going to discuss, we are going to discuss something about routing. So thanks everyone. If you like the video, please hit like. If you want to go ahead with the session, please hit subscribe. And if you're having any confusions, please write in the comment section. I'll be very happy to answer your doubts and all. Thanks everyone. We'll meet in the next session. Bye.